Calculating ROI or return on investment for Itil-based implementations is a challenge. However, we do know that benefits exist, and I'm often asked what return on investment will I see if I implement an Itil-based framework, and how long is it going to take me to realize those benefits? In other words, what they're really asking is this going to be worth the pain that we are going to go through, given that it's change management and we're talking about people, we're talking about skills, we're talking about changes in processes, and we're talking about having a direct effect on our customers as well. Each implementation is unique, and so it's not simply enough to use the benefits that have been recorded by other organizations and then simply scale up or down accordingly. Benefits realization is based on so many different factors, including the scale of the implementation, the processes and tool sets that are going to be included, the maturity of those processes, whether there are any structural changes required, the level of skill of the people that are going to be impacted, the level of investment, the timescales that you have. Oh, the list goes on. And in addition to calculating the benefits, organizations have first of all got to understand what their current costs are to enable them to have a baseline, a starting point that they can compare any improvements to. Without having that baseline, then you're not going to be able to quantify whether you have actually made improvements and whether you are achieving a return on that investment. I don't also want to disregard the non-financial benefits that are or should be articulated. What we call the VOI, the value on investment. And these include things like customer satisfaction scores, ethical and moral obligations, and even maintenance of the organization's market position, for instance. So what are the benefits then? Well, in a nutshell, Gartner have stated that customers or clients of theirs that have made a serious commitment to improving maturity by leveraging Itil over a 2 to 3 year period have seen an 80%, that's 80% reduction in IT support costs over 5 years. They've also seen a 50 to 75% reduction in unplanned work for critical services. Now, that's assuming that these organizations are not only adopting an Itil framework, but they're also following it, and they're following it meticulously as well, so that the processes that have been implemented are actually being used. So those achievements are going to be completely based on the success of the organizational change management aspect of that implementation. And of course, that hasn't even begun to mention customer satisfaction. I would expect to see benefits in both financial areas, such as return on investment, but I also expect to see benefits in terms of customer satisfaction and the availability of services to customers, as well as benefits in that are going to be very intangible, improving relationships between all of your support teams and your development and project teams as well. And it sounds amazing, but it's then very difficult to include tangible facts and figures and even money. And in order to be able to do that, there has to be comprehensive and holistic accounting and calculation of not just what's being spent right now, but then that needs to continue on a continual basis into the future so that you can measure the benefits over a period of time. For example, in order to calculate the financial impact of downtime, the cost of idle users in the business should be included, along with the cost of IT service provider time spent restoring service. Now, are you doing that right now? Because if you're not, then there's no way that you're going to be able to manage to do that in the future after you've already implemented and improved your ITIL processes. So there are some things that you have to put in place first before you can even begin to calculate your return on investment. Now, I do have other videos about baseline assessment, so please take a look at those and they'll explain more. What I'd like to do, though, very, very briefly, is just give you an overview of some return on investment statements that are widely available. And I look at things like, or organisations like the state of North Carolina, for instance, who claimed that they have improved the ability to resolve incidents within a target time frame by 32% and service requests by 20%. And apparently that happened in less than 3 months. So that's a magnificent return on investment there. The state of Illinois saved over $130 million annually. And the United States Postal Service realized a 50% reduction in incident resolution time and a 30% shorter time to implement new changes. If I look at Purdue University, they cut their second level support calls by 50%. Procter & Gamble actually realized a 6 to 8% cut in operating expenses. Over 5 years, they actually saved over $500 million over 5 years. That's a huge amount. Now, not everybody is going to be as successful as that. And calculating that return on investment can be a challenge. Case studies can help, but each implementation is unique. And I'd be more than happy to help you to understand what you should be capturing right now and what you should be capturing into the future in order to be able to demonstrate that return on investment. Budgeting and accounting is a requirement of being able to articulate and demonstrate that return on investment. So that includes structuring accounting and cost models, depreciation models, apportionment strategies, etc. So don't think that this is something that we can just, pull out of a hat like a rabbit. It's not. Okay? We have to remember that the purpose of implementing an ITIL-based framework is to deliver value to the organization. Value can be intangible. Value can be very, very difficult to manage. And so we have to start with the question of why we're looking to manage that return on investment. And this is my common sense approach here, what I always tell organizations is to think about how much it's going to cost you to start measuring. Because if it's going to cost you a huge amount of money to actually start measuring, then think about whether that is something that you should be doing in the first place. An ITIL-based implementation is always going to cost money to undertake. And we shouldn't forget the costs of managing cultural change and the costs of managing resistance, combined with costs of training and also the costs of marketing internally and externally. But there isn't any definitive answer to benefits realization. We do have examples, but the uniqueness of each implementation means that they're never going to be 100% relevant. If I can help you answer any questions about return on investment with an ITIL implementation, then please feel free to reach out to me and take a look at some of the other videos. They may be able to help you with things like baseline assessments.